I really like this article because this writer here hits on points for riders and drivers that we really need to be aware of. So sharing is caring. The more riders you can educate, the more drivers you can educate, the better, so we don't fall into these dangers. The title is The Dangers of Rideshares That Many People Don't Take Too Seriously. So we're going to read these individual points, and I'm obviously going to add a little bit of my own input here. A lot of people in Philadelphia find it easy to use ride-sharing apps like Uber and Lyft to get around. With a tap on your phone, a car will come and pick you up and take you where you need to go. This level of convenience and comfort was previously unthinkable. However, because it's so easy to use, many people may not think about the serious risks that come with getting into a car driven by someone they don't know. These services say they take safety steps, but there are still risks, and many riders in Philadelphia don't think that big of a deal. So if this is more protecting the rider, I want to directly address, that new lady is coming in, Riser. She's the executive vice president of Lyft. Pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. Uber and Lyft need to pay attention to this. Drivers need to pay attention to this. And then obviously this is geared towards riders. So here you have it, a complex settlement after an accident. Remember, just a short while ago, this Uber Eats parents, something went wrong, or someone got injured and they couldn't sue. Why? Because you'd basically waived your rights. You didn't opt out of arbitration, even as a rider. From the moment you create your account, your rider account or your driver account, you always have to opt out of these arbitration clauses, because if things go south, like an accident, sorry, you can't sue us because you agreed to this addendum or to this original agreement, our terms of service. So a lot of Philadelphians don't know about the legal problems that can come up after a rideshare accident. In this kind of situation, it's important to talk to a Philadelphia rideshare accident attorney. The best to talk to would be a legal rideshare, Brian Greening, right? He does all states. Contact him directly. And he knows how complicated the legal system works. In fact, rideshare drivers are often self-employed, which makes issues of liability more difficult. Without the right legal help, clients may find it hard to hold the people responsible accountable. Riders will go after the driver, and riders will try and go after the company. However, the company has pretty much bulletproof legal language in place when it comes to accidents. So that's unfortunately where riders think they can collect, they can't. More and more reports of physical and sexual attacks by rideshare drivers are coming in. It's actually way more the other way around. Unfortunately, this seems to be a little bit too one-sided, but there's way more drivers being sexually assaulted by rideshare riders. Because rideshare companies have limited liability policies, victims often find it hard to report these crimes or get justice. People who choose to use these services often don't think about this important problem. Big one here, huge one, fake rideshare drivers. The rise of fake rideshare drivers is lesser known, but just as scary as a threat. Criminals have pretended to be Uber or Lyft drivers, especially in busy locations like an airport or a bar. People think these fake drivers are their real drivers because they put up signs or act like they are their assigned drivers. Once the rider gets into the car without knowing it, they could be robbed, kidnapped, or even worse. This kind of risk shows how important it is to check your driver's information through the app before getting into a car. Now, even if you are intoxicated, I'm talking to the friends of that individual. You can see your lady friend is about to get into a car, or your guy friend. Make sure, as a friend, they are getting into the right vehicle. You got to check. You got to check and make sure that you are stepping into the right vehicle. So make sure the driver's information in the app the car information all adds up. Inadequate vehicle maintenance. Many people who use rideshares think that the cars they ride are in good shape, but this isn't always the case. In contrast to traditional cab services, rideshare vehicles are not inspected regularly by a central authority. Instead, the drivers are in charge of maintenance, and they may not do repairs that need to be done to save money. All I can say is we have to go for those checks. Tires, please, just make sure your tires are good, right? Don't drive around on bare tires. This lack of supervision can cause vehicles to break down, which increases the risk of accidents. Passengers might not know about this risk until it's too late. The risk of criminal passengers. The drivers are not the only ones who could be dangerous. Actually, they're more dangerous passengers than drivers. That's a fact. It can also be dangerous to share rides with other people. That's why look at yesterday's video. I'd suggest you don't do shared trips anymore. Here they say it, right? It can also be dangerous to share rides with other people, especially when using the pool options that services like Uber and Lyft offer. You might be taking a ride with a stranger in these situations, and that person might be up to no good. It has been reported that other passengers have stolen things, been rude, or even attacked others, making the vehicle unsafe for everyone. Look at yesterday's video that I made. Because the companies are so focused on making shared rides cheaper, they often don't see these possible threats. That's it. They're lowering the bar, right? And then all hell breaks loose. Limited insurance coverage. A lot of riders don't know that the insurance policies of rideshare companies can be hard to understand and might not fully cover injuries suffered in an accident. Most of the time, the rideshare company's insurance coverage only applies in certain situations, like when the driver is actually transporting a passenger. If an accident happens while the driver is waiting for a ride request, the riders might not get enough compensation for their injuries because the driver's insurance might not cover it. Customers who use these services should be aware of this security gap before they use them. So definitely make sure that you adequately insure. There's a lot of people still driving around on regular insurance, right? You need rideshare insurance to be in rideshare. You need commercial insurance if you want to be a private driver. If you want to learn how to become a private driver, just go to the link below. Take my course at GigRocket. Now, there are 4 comments here. I want to read a few. Stacy, looks like she's from Texas. There are a lot of illegal aliens driving for Uber and Lyft. In Texas, you can't get a driver's license if illegal so many. Doesn't sound like you can speak and write English too well. In Texas, you can't get a driver's license if illegal so many are using fake credentials or someone else's. As a rideshare driver myself, I get a lot of passengers complaining about this. They say the person doesn't speak English, doesn't sound like you can speak English yourself. They say the person doesn't speak English, doesn't know their way around, and drive recklessly. Sweetheart, you shouldn't be pointing at people and say they don't know how to speak English if you can't write and speak English yourself. Just FYI. I asked all the passengers with this issue if they complained to Uber or Lyft about this issue, and they said yes, but rideshare companies don't care. They just want the money. Also, it causes an oversaturation of drivers, so there are less trips for legitimate drivers. James says, I've driven for rideshare platform Uber since 2015, which is that's 9 years. I've completed more than 31,000 trips. He's legit, right? Rideshare has become more expensive, and while some of these issues do occur, even though Uber has tried to verify the identity of riders, some users will continue to order rides for friends and acquaintances who may not be qualified to ride. Amen. Very true, like third party, right? They also have recently tightened rules about cancellation, and because of this, pressure is placed on drivers to complete trips they have accepted, even if a person shows up for the ride is not the person who ordered the ride. I would say cancel the ride if Tiffany orders a ride and a guy who is 6'3" tall and has face tattoos shows up claiming to be Tiffany wants to get in. Amen. I just love everything you said in there, James. 2 thumbs up from me. He's given you so much knowledge from his 31,000 trips, right? I would say cancel that ride if Tiffany orders a ride and a guy who is 6'3" with tattoos shows up. 100%. Echo says drivers take a risk every time we pick up a rider. Driver is killed once a week in the United States alone. How about almost every single day? Kevin says the risk of drivers taking unknown riders in their cars is way higher than the passenger's risk. Amen. And it's good, Kevin, that you wrote this, because you're basically educating the writer, the reporter, because he or she did not get the story 100% correct. The rider always sits behind the drivers, and all accidents by riders is stabbing or threatening the drivers while rider sits in the back seat where the driver can do nothing to protect themselves. Most of the riders are drunk, and that even makes it worse for the drivers. You only think about the riders. Please take into consideration the risk of drivers too. Amen. So this individual here, who wrote this, he says, Our Man on the Ground, Travel and Lifestyle, written by, who is this individual? Doesn't even say who wrote the article. Doesn't say. Doesn't say who wrote the article, but it's some paid blogger. Now the points you've brought up are great, but you haven't completed the story, because it's a one-sided story. It's only about riders. There's only one paragraph dedicated to drivers. So really need to fill in the gaps here. There's a lot of holes here, but there are really, really good points. Complex settlement after an accident, assaults and harassment by drivers and riders, fake rideshare drivers and riders. I'm just completing it for you. Inadequate vehicle maintenance, the risk of criminal passengers and drivers, limited insurance coverage. Really, really good talking points. And maybe down the line, if you would do us a big favor and do a follow-up and just fill in those gaps. But great comments afterwards. And now your comments, rip loose. And let me know if you've watched the whole video. Thank you.